Hello, this is Nathan, better known as CrazyhermitDM, and this is my podcast, The Hermit's Homebrew. Joining me today is Brent from Langeministudio as we talk about Dungeons & Dragons and tabletop gaming. On that high note, though, I want to go to R out of guard, and that stands for reactions. The game changes when the battle evolves. Reaction creates drama. We were just talking about that, actually, why I kind of led into this. That static fight risks to become dull when characters, both heroes or villains, anti-villains, anti-heroes, no matter what you're playing, because morality's pretty gray anymore in D&D, reacts dynamically and the tension rises. Players' reactions. Anticipate how the players might respond to an enemy's actions. I try to. This is one of my weaker areas, actually. Chase has tried to kind of coach me a couple times. He goes if you're doing a boss fight, if you are questioning, this is his recommendation to me. He goes, if you don't think this presents a challenge, have your group. Or take your group's characters, because I do have all the character sheets, because I have the character builder. It isn't because I'm trying to, characters are it all. It's just, it's easier.
Yeah.
And run through a mock battle when it's not a game night and see how it kind of goes. That's a lot more work than
because now you've got 7 or 8 things you got to keep track of. And
I don't. And I'm running a podcast. I have a full-time job. I have a furry zoo to take care of.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have, I have a free afternoon probably to do it, but I don't have the motivation.
Yeah, because you've got to recover.
I might actually do it. I might do it with this particular villain though that we're getting ready to run into with the Overseer. But when I'm creating the stat blocks, even then, I'm trying to anticipate how the players might respond to the enemy's actions. Mm-hmm. Regardless, I'm okay, if I do this, how would they react? This particular save is probably the weaker. Intelligence and con saves is this group's weaker saves. Except for the Paladin, because he's taken the necessary feats and all that to counteract that.
Oh.
Off previous fails, he's learned.
Yeah, and that's I try to make where I'm not following a build. It's just, this has come up before, so I don't want that to happen again. I don't want to get my brain eaten by an intellect devourer again.
Retreat if the situation becomes dire. I am all for, and that was what that original... we were just talking about the fight with Xingxi where he got thrown. That was originally what that, fight was supposed to be. It was supposed to be something you guys lost. Or you guys got beat down and he took the thing and then he left.
I'm going to take this sword anyway and then leave. Yeah. Oh, what a dick.
Or are you going to double down on a reckless
strategy?
Yeah.
Let's do a Hail Mary real quick. Oh, hey, that worked.
Oh, we're fighting. Oh, we're basically playing the equivalent of the sports championship version of our group's lives. We're taking it all. Mm-hmm. Oh, we're holding it. How?
Yeah, how is this happening?
There's some stat blocks where I've made them so absurdly powerful, there's no logical reason why the group should have done what they did, but they managed to because of dice rolls, and that's... Some people want to invent systems that take that away. I think that's the nice wild card of Dungeons and Dragons in general, dice.
That randomness. Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's lots of things that happen in real life that you don't expect to happen.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So... I was saying, I know reward that clever thinking by allowing their reactions to have a significant impact. Did they push the boulder to block reinforcements? Did they cast Wall of Stone to block off half the room? Mm-hmm. Did they cast Demiplane under the biggest villain you've ever made, or second biggest villain you've ever made?
Hey.
Enemies' reactions. Even better. Give NPCs a survival instinct. Low-level foes might flee They should flee. Goblins, I'm sorry, in my
They're
opinion,
cowards.
they are cowards. The moment they should get below half HP, they should be running.
Yeah.
Now, it might show a little bit of like how dark your players get. Like, they ain't getting away. I'm killing them.
Yeah, no, I'm going to shoot them in the back as they're fleeing. Oh, okay.
But they can, even if they're playing a good character, it's like he's going to go back and he's going to tell his group that we're here.
We need to silence him or
Yeah.
stop him. Yeah, exactly.
And that is a good, lawful, in my reason why, if you're playing an older school approach.
Yeah.
Trying to encompass all the additions here. Another example is a dragon might fly to a roof after losing half of its health. I keep reinstating this because I'm just very happy Bloodied's back. Sorry. Using its vantage point for devastating breath attacks. In my opinion, if you are tactically playing a dragon right, the group should never win.
The group should never win against the dragons. It's just going to fly around using its breath attack on them. If it's out of breath, it'll fly out of range. It'll grab a tree or a rock or whatever, and then come back and drop it on them, or just fly around until its breath weapon recharges, and then come down and do another pass. It's never. It has no reason to land.
No.
Why am I going to fight fairly? Good luck
Now,
with that.
and like, even if you corner it in its lair, it has lair actions. It should have lair guards, especially if it's a very powerful dragon. It should have people that, you have, not even divine gods, but you have very powerful beings that take people under basically servitude through fear.
Yeah, exactly. They're interns.
And for the people that think that's unrealistic, there are plenty of real life examples of this in real life.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Human history is nasty.
It is.
Anyway.
And sadly, not to get stuck on real life stuff, because I like to stick in our fantasy world.
Absolutely.
There's sometimes a lot more horrifying things that happen in real life than happen in the fantasy world.
Oh yeah, exactly.
I'd like anyone that's kind of listening at this point to kind of write down below, like, share a time when an enemy's reaction took the party by surprise and how it heightened the stakes. Like, could you think of any, like, with any of our group lately, or at least not off the top of your head?
Not top of my head, but I'm just like, the reaction that took me by surprise was literally in the last one, to where the golem was just stomping him, was stomping Merrick. That took me by surprise, and it was so funny because I'm like, that shows me that a human was controlling this monster, because a golem is just going to do what it's like. Oh, there's a dude down there. It's going to use its energy beam, or it's going to stab me or whatever. But you got so mad at me. He's like, no, he's stomping you. And that was awesome. I enjoyed that immensely.
Oh, even if it's not being human controlled, it's, in my setting, I follow even like Hebrew mythology or Jewish mythology of like a golem has a soul in it.
Yeah.
So even if they are robotic, in many ways they are human-ish, or they have some sort of humanity. So it's gonna get frustrated when this thing doesn't. It's just trying to get this thing out of the way for get the rest of you.
Yeah. Why are you not dying? Yeah.
And this thing keeps getting back up.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why? It's like a bug you're trying to squash, and it just keeps crawling around.
You keep hitting it with the newspaper, and it just keeps moving. Like, why? Yeah, exactly. Like, that's it. You're dead. This is personal now.
Have you guys, like, at home, any of our viewers ever, you get a spider or anything like that, or any kind of creepy crawly bug that stereotypically you kill on sight in your home, and you go to whack it, and it just keeps crawling. And you whack it again, and it just keeps crawling. It's like, why are you not dying? And that was the mentality I had when I was playing this golem, because they have this soul, they have some sort of shred of humanity or mentality.
Yeah.
Of, this is my goal, to guard this thing with my life. I'm trying to kill this thing before I get the rest of these guys that are protected by this bubble, and this thing does not want to go down.
Not just, oh my god. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that was awesome. So yeah, that I guess that was kind of one, like, just that's popped in my head. But no, it's and that's like kind of how you create a good Well, it's one of the things for creating a good villain is that they're not just static. They are dynamic. They're reactionary. They're not just going to sit there in their throne waiting for the players to do stuff. They respond, and they have their own goals and everything. So giving your enemy reactions to what your players are doing makes them more realistic. Not just in the long term, but also in the very short term. Like you said, the dragon that goes down to half hit points and is like, "Oh, I'm getting my butt kicked. I need to get out of range." That's just smart. It's not going to sit there and die. It doesn't want to die.
And you're kind of leading us into the next letter of guard, and that's D, for danger.
Mm.
You have to keep that danger.
Yeah. Especially when now random encounters, like you're going through the woods, you run into a bunch of spiders. There should be some inherent danger to where the players.
I have a couple good stories once you get done with your thought.
Okay, but yeah, like the players run into death should always be possible, if not necessarily probable. Otherwise, what's the point?
The funnest random encounter I've ever had, when I first started playing D&D, we had our home game, but we wanted to play more. But we had all our static things. I was the only DM. I didn't want to run multiple games. So that's way too much for a beginner DM.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't know how some DMs run 3 to 4 games.
Yeah, hats off to them.
I'm sorry. I'm one of them things that you should focus on one thing and be good at it instead of being mediocre at 4 things. Don't spread yourself thin.
Yeah, you're just gonna, in my opinion, you're gonna burn yourself out. Trying to keep all like 4 different games straight with what's happened or anything.
I understand.
Hats off to you
if you're running one shots, that's a little different. That's cool.
Okay, that's true. Yeah.
But if you're running campaigns, and in my opinion, when I hear campaign, I run long form campaigns, unless you're running like 12 art session campaigns. But back to what I was trying to say is, like, when I first started playing, like, we wanted to play multiple games, so we'd go to our local gaming store and we'd play Adventures League. One of the funnest adventures I played with it is actually it is probably like a top 10 memory for me. I think, I cannot remember the storyline exactly, but we had to go underground to stop something, to stop the villain, basically the villain with his MacGuffin, and retrieve the MacGuffin, bring it back to the quest giver.
Okay.
Well, when you're telling a good story, what's stopping you from getting to the villain or the MacGuffin? In this particular one, when you're going underground, it was a group of ant keg ants.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The dice and this dude was rolling out in the open. He did not have a DM screen. He was rolling like a beast.
Oh, I wonder what that's like.
and then the entire group was rolling lousy. He was knocking us literally unconscious, all of us.
Oh, wow.
And then there's 3 or 4 ant kegs, and one of the most of us escaped. We did not get the MacGuffin or the villain. That's why I cannot remember exactly what it was, because we did not get there.
You didn't get it, okay.
But I know my character and the girl across from me did, but my friend at the time and the other person, the DM described it. You're right. As you guys are running out and you're able to escape, the last things that you hear are these 2 screaming as the ant kegs drag their bodies off into the tunnels. I'm just like, oh.
Oh,
and
no.
that was just it. Technically halfway random encounter, but constructed into the adventure to ratchet basically an obstacle.
Yeah, this is extremely deadly.
Yeah.
Oof. A little too much, maybe. Ouch.
Yeah. No, I think it was actually the right amount, but as I mentioned,
he was just rolling dang good.
The dice determines a lot with D&D.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's one of the things I like about D&D. Sometimes the dice are in your favor, sometimes they're not. It's that stupid song, The Gambler. You got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them.
Yeah. And when the dice roll against you, maybe you need to get out of there.
Yeah.
We'll come back later.
But with danger, you want to use maybe multi-phase battles to kind of dramatically like escalate things. The defeated giant might rise again and now empower an ancient curse. We mentioned the Icewind Dale Rime of the Frost Maiden. Like, spoilers again for anyone that's listening to this part. I did mention it in an early part. When you drop her down to 0, she metamorphs. To my understanding, I have not played this. She metamorphs into something else, and then has a completely different stat block.
Mm-hmm. Or you could have like a almost like a Wizard of Oz moment to where you're fighting this big golem or whatever. Well, you defeat the golem, and there's a bunch of like magical runes on the walls that start winking out. Well, and all of a sudden you just hear this angry scream, and now a wizard comes out.
Mm-hmm.
To where you are now you were geared toward fighting a more tanky melee type thing. Now you've got a spellcaster to deal with who's going to start dropping fireballs and lightning bolts and doing all. You got to completely change tactics now.
Yeah. You can introduce environmental threats that complicate things. Flooding chambers, crumbling bridges, toxic gas clouds. The list is endless. Mm-hmm. If we're going right off Brent's previous example here, let's say you're fighting that golem or anything like that, and there's those twinkling arcane things. My very cynical evil mind went to, what happens if you're taking down that golem and its power life force is the thing holding that chamber up? So if you take that golem out, the chamber collapses.
Okay.
So you have to kind of strategically kind of figure out, okay, we got to etch our way to the door. This thing's dying, or we got to lure it to the door for we can get out of there, or we die in the crumbles.
Mm-hmm. One of the fights I did in a previous campaign that I was running, there was a chamber to where you're fighting like a mini boss. I literally had a D8 sitting beside me, and I had 8. I forget what I described them as, but essentially 8 fire traps. To where every round I rolled on the D8, and whatever number came up, that number fired, and it fired a scorching ray across the battlefield along that line, and anything that was in that line got hit, be it friend, foe, or nothing. And I remember one of our previous characters, he was actually keeping an eye on it, and he's like, okay, well, we can't be here, don't stand here. If you end your turn, make sure you end over here to where you're not in line of where you guys figured out where these things were. And like that added just a little bit to that tactical mindset to where that's now a threat you have to worry about. That's not this boss trying to come kill you. The room is trying to kill you too.
And granted, if you're running more of a storyteller or a story-driven game, and you have a player that does that, let them still.
Oh yeah,
because it's still it is a little bit of meta game, and it's still more tactical board gamey-ish to do that. But if all your group's having fun and they are still on the edge of their seats of like, okay, move here, all right, now move here, now this happens, you're still doing it right. It's just maybe not how you initially wanted to present it.
Yeah, and if they figure it out, hats off to them. And if they're standing in areas where they won't get hit, I'm going to reward that. That's awesome because they paid attention.
The only way you should change that situation is if a player kind of comes, maybe 1 or 2 players even comes to you afterwards. I didn't have as much fun with that because it was a little bit more felt like I was playing a board game in that combat.
Yeah, you listen to your players. And players, if something happened and you're like, hey, I don't like that, and you really don't want that to happen again, speak up, because hopefully you're all there to have fun.
And we're kind of already halfway into S with the guards, and that surprises us. Keep them guessing.
Oh, yeah. I didn't see. Oh, yeah. Oh, wow.
Twists in combat. I mean, we're just rolling right through.
Yeah, just rolling right into it. Okay.
So the twist that he mentions with, kind of just using the firebolt traps, or a particular trap goes off, or in our previous combat, you had the 2 kind of fireballs that would randomly shoot or randomly spawn one random enforcement in.
Yeah, the fire pillars that would spawn fire elementals. Yeah.
That happened in the first campaign with Cade. You guys were fighting Surtur. You had the lava pools, and I actually had it written because it was the final thing. You were supposed to be ratcheting up. You're fighting Surtur, the god of fire.
The god of the destroyer.
It would spawn 1d4 fire giant dreadnoughts, and those things have 2 shields, and they're meant to push. And there are lava pools all over this room, so they'd go marching up. And unfortunately, they never did because the group did a very good job at holding them back and destroying them. But the goal was basically they take those shields and push them into the lava pits.
And how much is lava? How many?
Like 10d6,
Yeah,
if I
how many
remember
D6?
right.
Yeah, like okay.
10d6 a round.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Yeesh.
But you get those hidden reinforcements that emerge mid-fight. We were just talking about that. You got terrain that suddenly shifts, crumbling dungeon or fire traps.
Or you have someone that uses like mold earth or something that can literally change how the battlefield looks.
Tove just used that in a recent setting or a recent combat.
Oh yeah, what did she
to
do?
make it difficult terrain?
Yeah, I forgot what
she used one of her druid spells.
Yep, yeah, and it made like a huge area of difficult terrain. Yeah, that could happen. Yeah,
it changed the thing that the group could hide behind the difficult terrain. It made it a little harder for people to charge across. Maybe an NPC ally suddenly turns traitor. That one I very, very, very highly recommend to do sparingly. Because, one, you're going to, throughout any campaign, unless it's maybe a one-shot, throughout any campaign, you should have NPCs that the player, or people that the players can trust. Unless you're building it up or kind of like leaving it up. We've talked multiple times in the episode. We recently had our tinkerer. He's not a full artificer, but he's a tinkerer. Throughout the campaign, things kept happening to him that kind of led to that. Of he traded away his empathy. He kept dying multiple times to where it changed his outlook on life, and there was resurrection sickness and side effects. Because I'm a big fan of, it shouldn't be a video game. If you get raised more than 3 times in a week, more than likely there's going to be something that happens. And there are plenty of charts online for you guys to go check those out. If you've ever had that happen in your game as well, comment down below. I'd like to hear some random resurrection ideas, because those are always fun to hear about.
Absolutely.
My funnest one that I've never done but always wanted to is something else comes back.
Something else comes back. Heck yeah.
Or the spoiler alert for people. I guess it wouldn't be, because I'm rewatching it right now with my girlfriend. We're rewatching Supernatural, and we're on the Soulless Sam season. He comes back and he's acting all weird all season, and she's just like, "What's wrong with him? Like, this is not Sam." And I'm like, "You find out."
So yeah, you're right. It's not.
It's like he just watched Dean get bit by a vampire and all this sort of stuff, and let it happen, and yeah. And then you come to find out when he got resurrected, his soul did not come back with him. That's an epic D&D like resurrection, in my opinion. That's awesome. So, I would actually do that to a party member. It's like, you get resurrected, your soul doesn't come back with you.
It's like, what? Yeah. So, and especially when you
I go, your alignment turns to true neutral. You're very, like, what would be the word that he's lacks total, like, he's good at like faking it, but like Soulless Sam in that season is total like lack of empathy. It's more logic, like pure logic of like the reason why he let his own brother, who he has like a very toxic kind of relationship with, codependent, but he let him get bit because he knew if Dean turned into a vampire, it would lead to this bigger, like, elder alpha vampire, and then they could take care of that vampire. So in his tactical mind, he was willing to make that sacrifice in order to get to the big bad.
Yeah, you got to make that small sacrifice to get the greater evil, even though it is your brother.
Yeah. But yeah, that allows role-playing surprises.
Absolutely.
In a combat scenario, we were giving, once again, more combat or non-combat kind of examples there. You allow enemies to surrender, negotiate mid-battle. Maybe if you're playing that level 1 or 2, because most of you guys are probably playing low levels. We're giving high-level stakes here or examples, but low levels. Those kobolds or those goblins more than likely are going to surrender. The kobolds in Volo's guide, they've been updated since, but it literally has a beg cower
That's what
ability.
they do.
And it's a distraction ability that shows that kobolds are not brave creatures whatsoever.
No, they're small. They know they're small. They know they're weak. They know all this, so they have to do whatever they can to survive, including try to appeal to things that are more powerful to them to take pity on them or protect them. So yeah. And bandits may realize I just picked on the Dragonborn, so maybe coming up with an iron dagger wasn't the best thing. Holy cow, I'm sorry, let me go. You want to deal with me ever again?
How many war movies have you guys watched in the middle of the battle and the line breaks and people would just go running from the battlefield?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Same thing with the group. And they're especially if you're playing an older edition, and even if you're playing 5th or 5.5, it's like there is no shame in running.
None. And it is a tactic that almost no one uses. There's nothing in the rules that says you have to stay and fight to the death.
No.
Run. Leave. So what's the worst that could happen? You have to come back into the quest another day? Big deal.
Or you just don't. Or if you have a good DM, there's repercussions to not finishing the quest. If you go to kill the bandit king or the leader and you don't do that because you almost die, half your group dies, you and the other person escape, we'll say, you reform your group. You don't stop the bandit thing. Maybe their syndicate or their ring gets more powerful, and now he becomes an even bigger villain down the road.
Yeah. Instead of going and stopping the bandit leader from robbing caravans because you failed, they get more powerful, and now they've kidnapped the princess.
And that ratchets it up for another combat later in the thing. It adds more stakes. Especially if you, let's say that happens and you guys are level 2 or 3, and then you're level 6, 7, 8, and then you reintroduce that dude. Like I mentioned with the Mind Flayer with my previous campaign in the earlier part of this series, that adds so much. I cannot wait to kill that guy, and they literally will take their fingers and point at the mini on the table.
Yep.
I know who that is.
Of everyone who's dying today, he's gonna be among them.
Focus fire. If anyone escapes, it's fine, but that guy cannot escape.
Yep, he is not. Exactly. And then they get that chance for vengeance, and you think you can get me? Well, guess what? Fireball.
And if your players are going home after that and they're leaving whoever's house you're playing at or wherever you're playing at, and they're like, we got him.
Yeah,
I'm happy. They're driving home and they're like, I got him.
Exactly. That was a good session.
Yeah, that means you did right.
You done good.
Or your dungeon master did right if you're the one doing that.
Exactly.
And that's telling me that they followed all this, at least most of this advice we had just given, using the guards system of kind of ratcheting. It's there's all sorts of things, and there's stuff that we're mentioning that me and him had mentioned. There's all sorts of different ways, that you can just pepper in different things, different tool sets, different experiences, different examples or anecdotes. Always willing to listen to any comments you guys give, and examples. Comment what's another way that you've heard that can make combat even more deadly, or at least take it to that next level.
Also, are we coming out of left field here? Do you wholeheartedly disagree with anything we've said? I'll fully admit that I'm not perfect,
Nope.
If you disagree with what we're saying, how do you do it better?
You know.
Because I'm always open to learn new things.
But with that, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up. If you want to support our podcast, please check out our Patreon. If not, give all our good sponsors down below and the links. Give them all check out and a like and a follow, and check out their shops and support them, support our community, and let's make this a better role-playing place for everybody. Hey, tabletop gamers. Thank you for watching this episode of the Hermit's Homebrew. We come out with new episodes every Wednesday. Remember to like, subscribe, and share with your friends as we continue to level up and grow.